All right, guys, today we are talking about pedigrees. So week 4 is pedigrees and genetic inheritance. So pedigrees are genetic family trees. The essential questions we want to ask in these next 2 lessons are: how do we read a pedigree chart, and how do pedigree charts help us understand how a disease is inherited? So I think for each of these lessons, activity 1 and 2, I'm going to go ahead and split the videos up just so that there'll be 2 videos for each one, just so that they're not quite as long as I don't go quite as fast. All right, so what is a pedigree chart? So a pedigree really shows the inheritance of a genetic trait in a family over many generations. So it shows who has a trait and who does not. So if you look at these 2 examples here, you see some that are fully colored in, some that are empty, some that are half colored in. All of those mean something as to whether they show the trait, which often is a disease, since that's what we usually track. There's no reason to really track hitchhiker's thumb, but there is a reason to track some diseases. And sometimes it even shows who carries the trait. So sometimes when they're half filled in, it shows who carries the trait. So I'm going to go ahead and explain today what the symbols mean. So that's lesson 1. So a circle is a female and a square is a male. So if they are empty, that means they don't have the trait or they don't have the disease or disorder. So they are unaffected, is what we say. So an empty circle is unaffected female and an empty square is an unaffected male. If it's filled, then they do have the disease or trait. So you can't see that, but a filled in circle is a affected female and a filled in square is an affected male. So they have the trait or they actually have the disease. Okay. So how do we show, for example, mating? So when you put a line and you connect a male and a female, that is showing mating, that they're going to have children. And so you can consider those kind of the parents. And then you have a line coming off. And then with that, you can have these 2 lines coming down. And these 2 people have 2 children. They have a girl and a boy. She is healthy and he has the trait, whatever it is. So the last thing we do is we can start to number the generations with Roman numerals. So this would be generation 1, and this is generation 2. So we have generation 1, generation 2. Here's our 2 parents, and then here are the 2 children in this case. All right, so let's make it a little bit more interesting. Let's go ahead and give these children some mates of their own. Now, I don't use the word marriage. You can use the word marriage, but of course you don't need to be married to have children. So here we have this daughter is going to mate with this male here, and then they have a daughter of their own. And then we'll have this son who actually has the trait. He mates, and they have 2 sons. And let's go ahead and give the daughter a mate, and that will be generation 3. And then they have a daughter who actually has the trait. So we can ask some questions here. So how many males in the pedigree total? So you have to count up all the squares, whether they're filled or not. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. So that is 6 males. Okay. How many are unaffected? Well, that's 5, because 5 of these squares are empty. So 5 do not have the trait or the disease, whatever it is. And how many affected males? Well, you have 1 that's filled in, so 1. Okay. Now, how many females total? So I'll give you a second. Okay. So hopefully you counted 5 females. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now, how many of those are actually affected? So realize that's with the trait, that's filled in. So how many? If you said 1, you're correct. And then how many are unaffected? Well, that would be the ones that are not filled in, so that would be 4. Okay. So that is some questions we could ask you about a pedigree chart. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and stop there, and then I'll finish it with going here. We'll talk a little bit more about it. So I'm just going to split this into 2.